Morning. I have to apologise in advance. I'm slightly wired on caffeine this morning. I've got a 2-week-old baby. 2-week-old? 2-week-old baby, as you can see, and had way too much coffee. So I've got 72 slides, which I think I'm going to be going through pretty quickly. Put your hand up to slow me down or to ask any questions. We good? Cool. All right, off we go. So first, big data. I'm not going to be talking about big data. I'm going to be talking about data science. Data science for me is the intersection of pretty hardcore computer science with mathematics. So this is an emergent discipline I'm seeing begin to come to the fore in web and internet marketing businesses, but I think across all businesses. So I think historically, the days of your analysts capturing data, putting it in a normalized form into a data warehouse, running a standardized set of reports, dumping an output into Excel. I think those days are beginning to go. I think there's an emergent role coming of a data scientist, somebody who's got the tools and the skills to navigate small and large data sets, looking for insight that enables you to innovate and drive action. And what I'm going to go through with you today is some of the ways in which we've used data scientists to drive insight out of data at Holiday Extras to drive growth. But first, introductions. So yes, I am the Chief Marketing Technology Officer at Holiday Extras, which means I manage the P&L for the internet business there. And I'm responsible for everything from running our servers on the cloud to acquiring customers through SEO, paid search, and email. We turned over 200 million last year. We've been going for 30 years, so I describe us as the largest travel company you've never heard of. And I describe us as a high growth business, so we've grown at a growth rate of something like 23% a year. Just to give you a bit of colour on the history, because that will help explain where I'm going with this. We started off selling parking and hotels near airports, really unglamorous stuff, into travel agents on the high street. So when a customer bought a package holiday from Thomas Cook, say to Barbados, and they're flying out at 2 o'clock in the morning from Gatwick, we'd help Thomas Cook sell that customer a hotel and a car park and a parking space near Gatwick. That business did so well that we ended up pushing other products into those channels, things like car hire and travel insurance, and then other channels. So if you go to Ryanair, EasyJet, British Airways, Virgin, we're there selling extras, selling car hire, travel insurance and parking. And then we moved on to the continent and into the adjacent markets of short breaks, selling theatre and theme park breaks in the UK as well. But I'm going to talk to you more about where we're going. So I describe us as a 30-year-old startup. Our vision for the business now is that we believe holidays should be hassle-free. I believe the businesses that win online are businesses that invest in unique, hard-to-copy technology that enables you to deliver a superior customer experience through increasingly mining larger and larger amounts of data. So there are 32 million outbound holiday makers out of the UK. That's the market we're going after. And what we're trying to do is to try to help them holiday hassle-free. And the way we do that is when a customer comes to our website, they log in with Facebook, they tell us where they're going on holiday now, and our algorithms run and they recommend back to the customer's products that help them holiday hassle-free. And that's a selection of some of the products that we've got to sell. So this is live now on our beta site. Okay, back to data science, enough background, and data science-driven growth. So what I'm going to go through now are 3 very practical examples, things we've done at Holiday Extras in the last year, ways in which we've analysed data, we've had insights from that data, we've acted on it, and we've driven growth. And the bit I'd like you to focus on as I step through that is the process we went through. So I see lots of talking about big data and read lots about data science, but not much in terms of what is the process you step through to innovate on data? What are the competencies and capabilities you need? What are the gotchas and the pitfalls that are out there? So, on to example number 1, speed. What, and specifically site speed. So what has the speed of your website got to do with driving growth for a web business? So for us, like most travel businesses out there, the way we work is we have a form. So when you come to our website, you punch in, I'm looking for a hotel room from this date to this date, or I'm looking for travel insurance from this date to this date. And then when you punch your details into that form, a little spinner spins on the screen, and it takes a while to come back with the next page. And when we started looking at site speed, it took on average something like 10 seconds, which was actually more or less industry average for hotel searches on the internet. There's a little stat from Amazon there. Every 100 milliseconds that you increase page load time by, you reduce sales by 1%. And we tested this and we saw this as well. So just to talk you through how you do that, we had our existing website and we took a copy of it and did a split test, except on the split test we had a little timer. So it waited for 100 milliseconds and then it loads at the next page. And just by increasing the wait times, we watched and mapped how much the conversion rate was dropping. What that did was, it gave us a business case for speed. So improving the speed on the website will drive growth. The next big question is, how do you reduce the load time on your website? How do you get to sub-second searches within 12 months, which is where we're heading? Number one thing we did was we include software. We installed some software from New Relic, which is pretty good. I don't want to talk about the software. I want to talk more about the data here. So this is step one in the process of trying to innovate using data. So here the problem is site speed. Here we're trying to figure out how to speed up the website. And one of the kind of defining characteristics, methodologies of approaching big data is slicing the data by multiple dimensions. So what you can see here is a screen where we've dropped a bit of code onto our website and it's giving us 3 views on speed. Number 1 is by the stack. So this is end user response time this is actually landing on my website. So average is 6 seconds, of which you can see the actual web application is sub-second. It's taking quite a while to head out across the network. The DOM processing is the amount of time the JavaScript takes to get rendered on the browser, and then page rendering at the end. So that's one view of where your speed problem is. Another one was down here, which gives you the view by page. Another one's over here, where it gives you the view by country. So you slice by different dimensions to find issues, focusing on issues, fix issues as a pretty standard methodology around that. We couldn't get to the bottom of this without going to sub-second, without going quite hardcore on the data. So what we had to do, so this got us part of the way, about 50% of the way there. To get the remainder of the way there, what we needed to do was capture the load time of every single client out there. So every single person that visits our website, capture their load time, log the attributes of that user. They were coming in from Firefox at this time of the morning, on this kind of internet connection, and slice by each of those dimensions till we found the one that enabled us to have insight and drive action. And the big one was browser load time. So firstly, this output is from a tool called R. R is an open source tool, it's free, and it's the tool that's used by most data scientists out there as their tool of choice. If you look at what R is good at, it's good at enabling you to take a large load of data and slice it very quickly by many dimensions to try and identify a trend. So what we've got here to talk through this chart is we've got browser types running along the bottom. We've got the number of sessions for each browser in brackets, and we've got the load time on the vertical axis. This is called a box and whisker plot. So the middle line is the average, and between the top and the bottom of the colored bar, you have half of all your users. So you can see here on IE6, you have a giant spread in terms of load times, and the average is up here. And in terms of Firefox, it's all the way down here, and a very small spread. But by slicing, so first point is, only a data scientist, someone who was able to understand how to use R. It's got a programming language interface and understands, this is statistics really, understands statistics, can uniquely take that data set, drop it into something like this and deliver this output. Second point is you then start realizing you just have an IE6 problem. So IE6, whereas the majority of our volume is taking a long time to render. And then when you dig into it, you realize that you've got an issue in the way JavaScript is getting rendered in IE6. The point of this wasn't to go through a bunch of stuff on browser technologies, but just the methodology there of capturing data, slicing it by multiple dimensions, finding insight, and taking action. Next, matching products to customers. So every single business on the internet is about arbitrage, someone said to me once. So matching customers to products is actually a lot more difficult than it sounds. So if someone is looking, say, for a Canon Ixus camera or for the Gatwick Hilton, it's pretty obvious what they're looking for. It's pretty obvious what you should be putting into your paid search ad on Google. So when they type in Gatwick Hilton, you should say, click here for the Gatwick Hilton. You know on the landing page, you get a picture of the Gatwick Hilton, and you let that customer buy it. But if they type the word camera or hotel, something at a higher level, how do you figure out which products do you push back against those customers? It's my belief that the businesses out there that match products to customers more efficiently than anyone else will win online, because they will be much more efficient at using their marketing spend and sell more. So you'd think web businesses would be good at that. No, not really. For us, it's actually really hard. So when people come to our website, they punch in where they're going on holiday, we need to figure out which products are we going to sell to them to help them holiday hassle-free. How do we do that? Especially if you're into building the most efficient way of monetizing trip data on the internet. So when you push in your flight details and who you are, we have to figure out what things can we sell you better than anyone else. That's the vision for the business. So let's start with recommendation. This sounds like a recommendation problem. Recommendation's been done on the internet for a while. Amazon's really good at it. But let's just dive into recommendation a little bit more. Recommendation is subtly different. Recommendation is people who bought this, bought what you just bought that. Okay. And there is, and it's the upsell problem. And you can definitely make a lot of money if you have acquired a customer already through figuring out what products to upsell them. And there's a bunch of technology that's quite commoditized now that you can plug into your business to help you do that. But that's not really relevant for where we were going. Segmentation is the other way in which web businesses approach this. This is the people like you bought this. So when you visit a website, it automatically, oops, I thought I wasn't silent. It automatically puts you into a group with a bunch of other similar customers. And so this is it's the group of similar customers Marks and Spencer put me into. And then it pushes a bunch of products back at you, which are around that group. And just from browsing the web, we all know how good a job websites do at that. So I'm not into segmentation. In my mind, and then this is picking up on the big data a little bit more and the data science a bit more, in a world where every click can be tracked and recorded, we shouldn't be managing customers by putting them into groups of similar people. We really shouldn't be guessing. We should be able to read the signals customers are telling us to figure out what they want. And I call that personalization. So where we've gone with this is based on, so I'm going to take the example of a customer who's bought with us before, has come back again and punched their flight details in and click search. What's amazing is the amount of data we've actually already got on those customers. So if that customer has parked their car with us before, we've got their registration number and their model. We have 5% of our customers leave a review behind of when they book a hotel with us. So we know what products of ours they like. We know what type of hotel room they booked. They could have booked a family room. We know their postcode, so we know how far away they live from the airport. So you put all that into an algorithm, and I'll talk through the different kinds of algorithms that we've experimented with. And that puts you in a much more stronger place to figure out which product am I going to lead on. I'm going to lead on the best family hotel at Gatwick, which is probably priced at about £80 a night for that customer. For this example, I'm not going to walk through all the different ways we slice the data. What I'm going to talk through here are what are the different techniques we used to slice the data. What I think is quite interesting is that historically, there's only really been one tool people have used to analyze data, dropping into a spreadsheet, and if you're lucky, running a little bit of regression analysis on it to figure out what you should do next. I'm going to walk you through now 3 or 4 different types of technology and data analysis, which are becoming quite easy to access, which enable you specifically to solve the problem of recommendation and predictive analysis. So number 1 is decision tree algorithms. So these you can get and download as Python libraries, which you can actually plug into Excel now. The way these things work is it asks a series of yes-no questions. So is the customer a male or a female? Do they live more than 10 miles away from the airport? Do they have a family? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And at the end of it, you map your products against that. So that's one tool. You can imagine the pros and cons of that tool and how well that would work. Second one is Bayesian statistics. Thomas Bayes there. And the way that one works is given this history, customer interaction history, what's the probability they will buy this product next? And again, there's a bunch of tools and libraries we can use to do that. Graph databases, part of the NoSQL buzz at the moment. So graph databases are, rather than storing information in a table, information is stored in a network of relationships, which enables you now to say things like, I have this customer, this is a view into our graph database, this customer who made these bookings for these products with these different customer attributes. So they are male, they have children, they drive this car, and I have this customer with these attributes. Which product is near this customer? And you measure recommendation through the proximity on the graph. And that's what we ended up using, a variation of that. So when you come to our website and you punch in your details there, it looks for similar people like you using very atomic level data to recommend back to you products. So that was example number 2, matching products to customers. Again, just to recap on what I went through there, it was we captured data. It was much more around using different tools and techniques to find which one enabled us to convert better than other ones. Finally, conversion. So we've got, last year we had 3 million paying customers, 30 million visitors, so an average conversion rate of 10%, and about 200 million clicks on our website. And when I come into work on a Monday morning, I still get the same question, which is, why are we down? Why are we up? What's going on? And almost every trading business always chases its tail on what I call causality. So if you're lucky, you'll have something like this within your business if you're looking to solve that problem or answer that problem. This is a funnel flow. So this says 1,800 people came into the shopping cart, of which 853 went onto the form, of which 479 completed the form. Okay. Taking a step back, I'm going to talk you through how to do the different ways in which we can do conversion analysis, again, through slicing data, through multiple dimensions, till we find the dimension that we can have insight to drive growth. So dimension number 1 is to look at the funnel. That's moderately interesting. You can kind of see where the biggest drop-off point is, and then you go and look at that page and you try figuring out, why are people not completing the form? What can I do to fix it? If you're really lucky, you've got something like this. So this is the latest version of Google Analytics. And what this lets you do is to slice the funnel by different dimensions. And the dimension here it's sliced by is by country. So you can see how visitors from Canada are proceeding through the funnel and bouncing through the website. And then you can identify specific issues in there by customer segment. So better, even better, and this is something that we were lucky enough to be able to do, is if you break down the pages on my website, the page that describes availability of product, the upgrades page, and the payment page, the numbers here are the drop-off on each page, how many customers exited the website at that point. And then you compare those numbers against industry averages. You could say, okay, a 43% completion of payment, that's actually pretty good. 98% completion of upgrades, that's pretty good, but 15% of people only making it through the availability page, that's bad. So again, another dimension to look at that helps you identify where the issue is. But none of that tells you why customers aren't buying. So all that stuff I've talked to you there, all that tells you is where the problem is. So I describe that as process optimization. So you can go and look at a spreadsheet and analyze and find the single biggest drop-off point and dive into the detail on that. But that still doesn't tell me why people aren't buying, and two, what do I need to change to fix it? That bit still is more art than science. In my mind, the solution to that question is the mix of quantitative data, which I've been showing you so far, with qualitative data. So you put the two things together, and I think you've got a fighting chance of understanding why things are happening. And how do you get qualitative data? You talk to customers. So what we do on the pages that were the highest exit pages from our website, we popped up an exit survey, and we experimented with many different kinds of pop-ups with questions on it, free form text boxes, survey boxes, and we partnered with someone actually who got very clever at figuring out how do you get people to fill out these boxes accurately and not just hit the top button. And the value in doing that is that you then end up with this kind of data, which says that of the people that left the availability page, 13% of them left because of the images weren't good enough, 65% of them left because the descriptions weren't good, and 21% left because the product wasn't what they were looking for. Why this is really powerful is suddenly you've got here a business case for improving the images on your website. So I know if I improve the images on my website, 13% of people should stay and book. That's really powerful. So again, to recap on that process there, and this is true through all the examples I went through, you need to start off by capturing the data, capturing every single click. And with the way in which cloud technologies are moving today, you can do that pretty cost effectively. You then need to invest in slicing that data through as many dimensions as you can as quickly as possible. And here I think it's a people problem. I think there are as a certain skill set and profile of person with a set of tools that can do that really quickly. The third step, which all the software companies that come and sell you silver bullets for doing these two things, they don't talk much about this bit here, but you really do need a person to look at that data and figure out what are you going to do what action are you going to take off the back of that insight. And that is still a very human-driven step. And then launch as quickly as you can and repeat the cycle. So one of the things I look at in web businesses is how quickly does it take you after you launch a new initiative to make it all the way through the cycle again. And the businesses that win are the businesses that invest in doing that faster and faster and faster. Okay, one last caveat. The dangers of process optimization, and I've touched on this already. It's something I realized through the course of the last couple of years, that there are two different kinds of problems there. So when we're talking about the speed problem that I went through earlier, that's like an engineering problem. It's like, my system is broken, I'm going to analyze the data and figure out where the problem is, and I'm going to fix it, and when I fix it, it's fixed. That's cool. But moving conversion from 10% to 15%, persuading, instead of 9 out of 10 people leaving the website without buying anything, 8 out of 10, one extra person buys something, getting into their psyche and figuring out why they're not buying something and getting them to buy something, that is, sorry, a couple of things. So process optimization is not the same thing as changing behavior. You can't sit there in front of a spreadsheet and figure out how you're going to fix that. trying to understand why people are leaving your website without buying stuff, and understanding and changing human behavior is an order of magnitude more difficult than fixing a speed issue on a website. What I think is interesting is that we chuck both problems at our business intelligence teams, our management information teams, and our data scientists, and we expect them to solve them both, but they're two very different ones in there. Or, in summary, understanding why people do things is difficult. And that's it. So just to recap everything I went through there very quickly on caffeine. So number one, data is your largest untapped asset. So just to put this in context, our market, the number of holiday makers flying out the UK, has gone backwards every year since 2008, but we've managed to grow through that. And we've grown through that through really analysing our data, and analysing the customers already visiting our website, and using that to drive growth. 2, you can use it to drive revenue growth when times are tough. And 3, storing, analysing, innovating. 3 steps to success. And that's it. Cool. Any questions? There you go. Hey.
You mentioned in your slide when you went through sort of your first dashboard, it said that you were working in P2P, and then I know you use Python for some of the kind of imports you use it, you're using R on the other side. Yeah. How do you work with integrating across several different languages?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. So when so the core tech stack, so our web platform, our web application, our websites are built on LAMP, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. We're in the process of moving that to Node and Ruby, but leave that to a side, okay? So the core stack's in that, so all my tech team know how to use that and are well versed in that. What I find, one of the things I look at is agility. So I'm really interested in how you can speed things up, because I think in moving faster, you'll move faster. If you can move faster than your competition, you will win. Having a single holistic business intelligence framework can slow you down on some of these things. So I'm much more in the opinion of hiring somebody who is who's able to drive the tool set and the data that they need, give them the data they need in a format that they can access it, and letting them choose whichever tools they want to use in order to drive growth. In terms of support for that, I have a very small team of only 2 or 3 high-end data scientists doing this. They have 1.5 developers that sit with them and help them out, but most of those guys have got a background in computer science or some background in programming, and have taught themselves and are self-supporting. Is that right? Yeah. Hi.
When you capture the data, are you streaming it, or do you use these NoSQL databases, or do? Or
yeah, it's fascinating, this one here. So I've managed to do most of this without using most of the big data stuff. So his capturing every single click is going into a MySQL database at the moment. Even with that volume I showed you there of customers and clicks, that's fine. If that went up if I was Facebook or Twitter, then obviously I need to be doing something else, but I don't have volume that makes me need to do any of that clever stuff.
So you're not using MapReduce or anything?
So I have played around with MapReduce. I get to MapReduce when I get down to analysing log files at low level, when you're capturing huge numbers of log files and I want to crunch a job across that. There's always the balance around normalising enough data to help you get insight out of it quickly. So capturing every click and storing all the attributes of that click against it in a database is the time it takes to get something out of that database is pretty quick versus the time it takes to fire up a MapReduce job and figure out. Yeah. Hey.
You showed an example of an exit survey.
Yeah.
How do you determine they've actually exited the site or the page? Do you show it on the next page after the...
No, on leave. So you, as a JavaScript event that gets fired when someone's going to click next or off, and you can pop, and it works only works, I think, on 70% of browsers. It will pop an exit survey then at that point.
What's the typical skill profile of a data scientist? Is it just another name for
really good question. Really good question. So I spend a bit of my time trying to figure out where do you find them, where do they live, where do they grow, how do you cultivate them. You definitely don't advertise for a data scientist. So I'll talk you through the 3 of them that I've got at the moment. The first one always happens by accident. So we had a friend of one of the founders in the business who just wanted to, who did a PhD in medical imaging and was looking just to do something in his spare time and analysed our paid search data and figured out how to make some money for us. And I'm like, ooh, this was about 4 years ago before all this stuff became hot. Now, what was interesting is medical imaging is a field where you're analysing lots of data and you're running algorithms on that data to find images. So I didn't realise it, but that's a pretty good place to find people who know how to take large data sets. He knew Python, he knew all these libraries that you need to use in order to manipulate that when he joined. The next guy was a fluid dynamicist. So these guys, it's quite funny, so they get trapped in horrible soulless parts of postgraduates they're usually post-PhD students in university. They get trapped doing really soul-destroying stuff somewhere in academia, and they're desperate to make a bit of cash. And what's interesting is if you take that skill set and you push it into this discipline, and you surround them with people who know about conversion and they know about internet marketing, it will work. The third guy was an intern who's doing maths at UCL that we took on board as well, who's joined us afterwards as well. So that's where we found them. Is that right? No worries. Anything else? Hey.
Hi there. You mentioned that you've got the 2 sort of typical classic ones. You've got the profile-driven thing that M&S are doing, where they create a profile and try and fit you into that segmentation approach. And then you've got the other one, of course, which is the predictive analysis, which is obviously very early days.
Yeah.
Or even Amazon, constantly fixing things. I don't know if this is transfers to your sector. I'm over in the States where legislation has meant we've had to move forward a little bit quicker than over in the UK. And let's say we genuinely, rather than having a sort of a glorified product push, we genuinely do have a tailor-made self-service model. So if someone comes onto the internet, the insurance engine effectively generates a bespoke product for that customer based on a single customer view. It's leveraging everything we've been talking about. As opposed to, thus far, it's using a lot of very clever technology really just to push a product.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Is that insurance, you said?
Oh, yeah, that's insurance.
So I just give my take on this is, I'm not sure why, but when I look at the web, how it works, is that I frequently see 2 kinds of businesses next to each other. You have a business that focuses really hard on product. So if I look at hoteliers, that's a really good example, right? So StarwoodHotels.com, that focus all their money really hard on building an awesome customer experience around hotels. Then you have other businesses that spring up around distributing hotels. So Hotels.com. Starwood spends about $30,000 a year, I think, on paid search. Hotels.com spends, I think it was 30 million a year on paid search. Their core competency is distributing product. They invest in all the things I've talked about here, Hotels.com. Whereas Starwood invest their money in hotel experiences. Their cash flow is all around that. It's quite lumpy. I look at insurance businesses as well, and I'm not familiar with your one, but I see lots of insurance businesses that focus really hard on the insurance product in managing risks and loss adjustment and all that kind of stuff. And then they push out their product to distributors who focus on distributing it. I haven't yet seen anyone really try to bring the 2 things together and succeed, and I don't know why. And I don't know if that's going to happen in the next 4 years, 5 years, or it'll take 10 years, 15 years. And the measure, I think will happen when you search for hotels, you won't see travel agents there anymore. You'll see hotels there because they're able to distribute their product really well, understand their customers really well, and there won't be middlemen there. When you're looking for insurance, you won't go to compare, you won't go to compare the market. You will type in, I'm looking for travel insurance for over 65s into Google, and the insurance company will come straight back to you with a quote off the back of that. And yeah, I see the industry moving that way. I really don't know if we'll ever get there. Does that help? Yeah. Anything else?
So a quick question. I'm just interested in the how effective reviews are. You say you've
Yeah.
got people that add reviews. I'm just wondering how many people leave because they've got poor reviews. I think reviews get rid of either sometimes a really good time or a really bad time.
No, totally, absolutely. We're pretty good actually. So there's two things here. One is if you've got one of the two things I drove in the business. One is if you've got bad reviews, you have to publish them. Right, number one. Number two, if you've got bad reviews, you've got a problem with your business. Because you can't keep running a business where if the majority of your customers are leaving bad reviews. If 20% of your customers are leaving bad reviews, you're heading to, your repeat rate's going to be down.
I don't mean a bad review about you, but I mean...
No, about the product. Even yeah, exactly. But however, then what's awesome about customers is they're really unforgiving. So they came to your website and they bought that hotel through you. We pride ourselves on the quality of the hotels that we sell and curate that. And so so what we built was a process around our reviews. So we try very hard to capture reviews. If we get good reviews, we try and turn that customer into an advocate on Facebook and Twitter. When we get a bad review, we send that straight to our commercial team who goes back to the hotel off the back of it and communicates back to the customer on whether the problem was fixed or not. And I think that's the key thing with it is making sure that's part of your overall CRM and business process. Is that all right? Is that a question? Yeah, cool. Nice. Yeah. Hey.
In terms of the iterative process and the test and learn,
Yeah.
what typical timescales? Obviously, I'm lucky, I've got a slightly bigger team than you.
Yeah.
But let's say in terms of man hours or whatever it might be, how many test and learn cycles do you go through a week, let's say?
It's a good question. So just at high level, if you guys want to learn more about the test and learn cycles type stuff, there's this awesome movement and methodology coming out of the US at the moment that's being used by startups called the Lean Startup. You guys heard of that? Yeah, and that's really cool in the book. Yeah, Eric Ries's stuff, and that stuff's really good. And there's a great ecosystem there of how you go about implementing test and learn cycles within your business. We run usually on a weekly basis, so we run weekly sprints basically on most things. So most things it is about launching something, seeing it out there for a week. So we have to push it. So we're onto it, test it on enough volume that you get to a statistically significant result after a week, and then analyze the data, and then figure out what you're going to drop into builds for the next week, and then we launch after. So that's 2 weeks end to end before it gets back out.
The reason I asked is that we thought if we put in the right tools, train the right people, we would instantly see this massive competitive advantage. And of course, it's not a level playing field. Everyone else is doing the same. So we're constantly trying to effectively keep ahead of this sort of
very good.
way. So
Yeah.
someone says they're doing it for 10 hours.
Yeah.
We're going to do 20 hours.
It's a really good question. So the way I look at this is within our business, we invest in 3 things. So what I call our why, our what, and our how. So the why is the vision. We believe holidays should be hassle-free. That's transcends making money, and it's a good north star to make sure that you're making the right decisions. The what is what you are building and what you are selling. So we invest in acquiring customers and monetizing trips. So a bunch of money goes in there as well. If I look at all the projects, there's projects there to bring more products on board, bring more traffic streams on board. The bit we realized over the last couple of years is that you also need to invest in the how, which means you will always win. And the how is how quick is the engine, is how quickly it takes you to make it all the way through that cycle. Now, what's important here I found was not to listen to consultants, but to work your way through the detail here. So I spent a lot of time looking at our development backlog and our Kanban processes. So I'm starting mapping the time from the moment an idea and innovation was spotted, through to launch, through to measurement, through to iteration. And just start taking apart what was the single biggest activity stopping the critical path, going from idea to getting it in the backlog, to getting the design ready, to getting it to build, number one. Fascinating. That was all about scheduling people's time more than resource. Then build, you can get a very slick build process. People know how to run dev teams. That bit's always is actually taken care of if you've got a good tech team. The instrumentation though, so instrumenting your launch, so tagging the website, making sure you're capturing every single bit of data, correctly the first time around, incredibly worth making sure you do that, because the number of times I've gone through stuff and if the data's not right the first time, you have to go back and redo the test because the test wasn't fair. So just invest in the time in making sure you've got a good test, investing money in the infrastructure to enable you to very quickly capture data. It's really, really important. So your infrastructure for capturing data, your infrastructure for slicing the data. How quickly can a data scientist grab this, and this and slice through not just one dimension, which is the dimension your database schema is set up for, but other ones that they've just thought of. How easy is it to assemble that data somewhere and do it? What do they need? A bigger computer, a faster instance on EC2 to get them there? That kind of stuff. Investing there makes a big difference. And people as well is the other bit. It's very twee to say it, but you see it when you hire someone new in and you realise everything just got faster. And it's hard to know when that's going to happen, but just by talking to people and constantly looking out there at other people doing this kind of role and identifying where those kinds of opportunities will come. Cool, nice. I think we're out of time. I'm getting signs from the back. I've got to run. I think the guys have got my details, and that's my Twitter handle there. So drop me any questions, or if you want to talk afterwards via email or via Twitter. And yeah, have a great rest of the day.